I'm just going to run through some of the services for student services, and as Merryn said, sometimes if you're an external student, so how many of you are external here? Yeah. So often as an external student you might feel that you miss out on information that people get almost by osmosis in a classroom. So part of today is to make sure that you get all the information you might need to make best use of the services while you're here as a student. By all means, do stop me at any stage and ask questions. I say that in the forlorn hope that someone might at some stage ask a question, but let's proceed. Well, it doesn't happen very often. So one of the main things that student services offer is student counselling. I've said this many times, it would be great if when you take on something as large as study in your life, that the rest of the things in your life just went swimmingly along and everybody played nice and everything went well. And it will be fabulous if that happens for you, and my sincere wish is that that does happen for you. If, however, there are issues either within the study or in your outside life that press upon you and then make it quite difficult for you to concentrate on your studies, then part of our role in student services is to offer one-on-one counselling in those sorts of situations. It can be, as the word suggests, dealing with stress. It can be that you've taken on a little bit more than you expected to, and it can be those random things that life throws at us that you didn't expect to happen just when you'd taken on full-time study. We don't have magic wands, can't just fix everything, but as many of you might know, that having a conversation with somebody outside of your personal life and going through some possible strategies can be very helpful. We also, I'm old, I have a lot of connections in the world of counselling, so if it's something that one of myself or my colleagues can't work with, then we'd look at referring you to wherever would be most appropriate. So, that makes sense to people? Yep. Career, when you take on a course, you've obviously got a big plan in mind in relation to a change of career or proceeding along a particular path. Again, talking with the lecturers that you have can be a very valuable way of increasing your knowledge about your particular industry. If, however, you want to talk through some ideas about further study, about links with university courses, etc., then that's part of what the student services team will do as well. This is the area that is my part of student services. I'm what's called an access and inclusion advisor, and so my role is to assist any of you that have any kind of learning difficulty or a health condition or a disability that may impact on your studies while you're here. Or it could be that some illness occurs while you're studying and you need to make some adjustments because of that. So the sorts of things that we look to do for students who need some adjustments in relation to their studies is exactly that. We look at putting in what's called reasonable adjustments. It may be that there are many students on this campus who are managing things like dyslexia, dyscalculia, many of the specific learning difficulties, which then can make it quite a challenge to manage things like the Learn site. If that is the case for you, then please do make an appointment to come and see one of us so that we can put in place whatever we may need to in order to make the study more accessible to you so that you have every chance of being as successful as the rest of the student population. There are some magnificent assistive technologies around now which can help people access study more effectively. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, I might just while I'm here try this on my own, that's great, but do make sure that you know that that's part of what we do for students, and I'm happy to have conversations with people about your own particular circumstance. The ABS says that 1 in 5 of us are managing either a health condition or a disability that impacts on our life, so in a group this size, there's going to be quite a few of us that are managing something. So you don't need to be working it out on your own, come and chat with one of us about what we might be able to put in place. Some of the services that we look at putting, you'll see around the place, interpreters from time to time, and people using assistive technology like this sort of thing, where perhaps a lecture could be filmed and captioned so that you could see it differently or access it differently. This is just, you'll see a whole lot of things about wellbeing in the next couple of weeks, when Wellbeing Week sort of is upon us. Basically, the part of student services is the part of TAFE that helps students with these sorts of issues, making sure that you are not giving yourself too hard a time, working out how to balance things in your life, and being kind to yourself, and learning how to cope with stress, because it seems to be everywhere, doesn't it? TAFE also have an Aboriginal Access Centre, and we have an Aboriginal training support officer called Lisa. Lisa Helps. Lisa Helps. This campus is part of Lisa's set of campuses, and if there are any of you who identify as Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander and wish to speak with someone about any possible supports there may be, then Lisa would come and meet you on this campus or any of the other campuses, given that many of you are external. So Lisa is around. The student e-zine, has anybody seen this as yet? Student services have just started in the last couple of semesters putting together a student magazine that you get via email. It's put together with student services and with students. It has some student stories, some ideas about coping with study, information about what's happening that you might be interested in. And it's only a baby at this stage. It will grow and get better as we continue along. Those of you who are external might find, or people because of preference may find, that you don't want to engage with somebody one-on-one in relation to issues to do with study. There is a service called The Desk, which you can access from the Learn site, and it has information about managing while you're a student. It's designed for tertiary students, so that it has information about, how to get over those things like putting things off, procrastination, etc. It has that sort of stuff in it. So you can procrastinate by going to the desk and doing some stuff on procrastination. And Studiosity, this can be very valuable for students. When you open up the Learn site, you'll see these sort of lime, greeny, yellow things that sometimes people think might be an advertisement. It is in fact an advertisement but for a service that TAFE provides to all our students. It's online assistance, online learning support. So from 3 p.m. till midnight every day but Saturday, you can access this service. Students I've spoken to who have accessed it have said it has been extremely valuable. What you can do is you can connect with a tutor who has skills in your area and go through things like a question. So you might be doing your work towards an assignment. It's 9 o'clock at night and you come across a question and think, now, have I understood this question correctly? Is this what they're really asking? You can tie yourself in knots. You can decide, I'll put the work away and tackle it later. Or you could get in touch with Studiosity via the Learn site, and they will ask you a couple of questions about which course you're doing and then put you in touch with a tutor who has skills in your area. And then you can have like an online chat and pull the question apart, have some sort of discussion about whether you're on the right track. So that's one service that it offers. If you also are a bit concerned about your writing, if it's a long time since you've put together an essay or a report, and you're not confident that what you're going to put together for the lecturer is going to show you in your true light, then if you can get your draft done in time, you can submit a draft and they will Again, get a tutor to look at it and look at the language and the construction and the way that you've put it together. They won't answer the question for you, but give you some feedback about the English language components so that you, when you do present it to your lecturer, you feel that you've done everything you can to make sure it's a professional piece of writing. So please do use the service, because I believe it's underutilised, possibly because people keep thinking it's an ad, and it isn't. So yes, that can be very valuable. Anyone got any questions at this stage? Tips for success. That's about connecting you with things. And student services, part of me being here is so that you know that there is a service here. Where we are located on this campus is in the information centre, which you may have already visited. There are student services staff on other campuses as well. So if you're external and you're close to Adelaide, or you're close to Noarlunga or Mount Barker, or Port Augusta, then you can utilise the student services on those sites and get assistance on those sites if that's easier for you to do. It says library. We don't have a physical library at this location. However, you can get access to texts, again, by going to the information centre, and they will access texts for you. And you have the capacity to use all the libraries around the state, all the other TAFE libraries as well. Obviously, in terms of your studies, your lecturers are always the first point of call. They're always going to be the most appropriate person to talk to about your studies. Foundation skills is a part of TAFE. Again, if you're struggling with language issues, then we can get you in touch with the specific part of TAFE that looks at helping people build their literacy and numeracy skills. If you're worried that that might be letting you down. Information services, you know where that is? You've seen the information counter when you came in? Yep. Okay. And the final thing to let you know is that we will only get better if you let us know when we're doing okay and when we're not doing okay. So please do provide feedback. There are methods to do that. Again, at the Information Centre, you can provide written feedback, or indeed you can talk to people and let us know what's working for you and what you'd like to see changed. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask, which is now I'm going to ask you if anyone has any questions. No? Well, it's great to meet you, and part of me being here is so that you put a person to the face to the service of student services. There's a whole team of us, and as I've said before, if this campus is difficult for you to come to, there are other campuses, and you're welcome to use our services on each of those. So thanks for having me. Good luck.
On behalf of the Building Designers Association, I'd like to thank you all for making the effort and coming here today. For those of you who registered with Joe your dietary requirements, there's a tray of Subway over there on the table which is wrapped up and it has your name on it. So that can help you identify your specific dietary requirements. The rest of the other trays are Subway, so if you want to get up and feel a bit peckish, then please make your way to there. There's drinks in the esky next to it, and next to that is the hand truck with the bin, and next to that, over there on that table over there, there's a box, and that's full of cups. So thank you for coming, but please, you can take a cup on your way, take two if you need to have two. And in that way, you've got something to remember today. Thank you. Anne-Marie, fill us away.
Hi guys, I'm going to be upfront and honest. This is my first presentation, so I'm nervous as all hell. So I'm from Austral Bricks, the manufacturing plant we've got here in Golden Grove. I'm actually just been role changed, so I'm the maintenance manager. Now I'm the production manager. So up at Golden Grove, we basically mine and produce bricks out to wonderful builders and designers and architects. Initially I was asked to talk about brick manufacturing efficiencies, and I will do that briefly, but there's something I really want to show you about how design how someone's dream can turn into something absolutely amazing with some collaboration from some wonderful architects, designers, clients, right through to the tradespeople and fabricators, the whole kit caboodle. So firstly, the boring part, brick manufacturing efficiencies. With any business, we want to make things run as efficiently and effectively as we possibly can. It's our bottom dollar. If we can produce things at a cheaper cost, we can offer them at a cheaper cost, or we can increase our profit margin, either or. So in the manufacturing, we do this as our everyday life. Things that we can look at and how we can improve, whether it's the energy efficiencies of a plant. If we've got an air compressor that's leaking air somewhere, or air leak later on down the line, that can cost us thousands of dollars a year in lost energy. So the process of bricks, I'm just going to bypass a whole heap of stuff because it's just boring as all hell. The process of bricks, we have raw material, and you might just think, like I did a couple of years ago, that a brick is just a piece of clay that they've just put into a mould or pressed into this wonderful shape, put it in the kiln, baked it a little bit, but that's totally wrong. Trust me, I've come from automotive, so automotive to bricks is really different. There's all sorts of different clays. There's plasticity in clay, there's shale, there's all sorts of stuff. And the colouring of clay as well is just, you can have red, cream, biscuit, brown, depending on the actual location of the clay as well. So all of that sort of stuff in the raw materials is another part of the manufacturing efficiencies. What will burn at a lower rate, what will fire, what will give us our CWA, and all of that sort of stuff it's all dependent, and that's where a whole heap of R&D goes into design and development and product things. So I've been quite fortunate. Brickworks have taken someone from a totally different area and given them a good boost. So don't ever think that you're just sidelined into something with your training, education, design, anything. Our kiln, we've currently had some major works happen over the last 3 weeks, which is why I'm really unprepared. And my computer decided it didn't want to set up my program for me today, so we're great. Our kiln can get up to a firing temperature in our firing zones of 1200 degrees C. So, and if something goes wrong and a jet part of the heating flame hits one of those bricks, it actually turns to glass. And trust me, I've seen that happen. Not pretty, not a nice mess to clean up, but it looks gorgeous in the end result. So just be careful with that. So what I would like to show you, and I'll put it up on the video in a sec, is how Frank Gehry's first Australian project, which is the University of Technology Sydney's Business School, the Dr. Chow Chak Wing building, became a reality. The building's been dubbed a crushed paper bag, and when you see it, if you haven't already seen it, you'll understand why. For Frank Gehry, it fulfilled an unrealised dream that he had. It was an unrealised philosophy of education. So with this unrealised philosophy, it's the philosophy of a treehouse with a trunk structure of social spaces, which branches off into disciplines of knowledge, research, design, and all of that sort of stuff. So I'll just flick the video on and let you see if I can work out how to do this. Sorry. Can I have some help, please? Oh, there we go. It's okay. I think I've got it. There it is. Yeah, it's all good. I just didn't know how to.
When I first saw the drawings of the Gehry building, I just said that can't be built out of brick. It looked like a it looked like a squashed paper bag, a crumpled paper bag, and with the undulating folds that were in the drawings, I thought there's no way you can build that out of brick. From what you know about Frank Gehry buildings, when you see them, you know that he pushes materials to the limits, and he does things with materials people don't do. So when I saw the drawings of it, you knew that it was a Frank Gehry when you looked at the drawings, and he was pushing brickwork to its limits to try and do something different with it.
Gehry Partners have a long history of using different materials in a different way. Describing the building is very difficult in words. It's probably best done by using images and pictures. In this project, Frank Gehry has designed a brick building unlike any brick building that's been designed before.
I was terrified because of the shape of the building. I never built things like that in my life. I've been doing a lot of arches in my life, which is arches is not normal. I've been doing a lot of railway wall, which to me that's a normal, but this shape is not a normal.
Work with Frank. In fact, some of the designers in the office had done previous projects with Frank, and our office based in the US has done work with Frank Gehry before on Frank Gehry buildings. So we were definitely aware of the challenges entailing the work and the vision, impressed by Frank and his designs and the challenges that his designs created.
The technology behind the brickwork design was rather complicated. We had to work out a way that we could produce a brick that would be able to be tied to the structural frame. So in that process, we worked closely with AECOM engineers. They had an idea of the ties and the restraints they wanted to use, and we had to come up with a brick that would be able to do that. In the end, we ended up with only 5 bricks. When we started, there was, I think, 22 special shapes, and we got it down to 5 bricks.
Yeah. Just to quickly demonstrate, the system is obviously the threaded rod and the washer, the threaded washer, which fits into the rebate, and then the small washer behind, which locks the bricks in place, which prevents the bricks from falling inwards or outwards during construction. And that was inherent part of the system that allowed it to be constructed in the difficult shapes.
The pin, it enables it, depending on what distance it is from the structural frame, that it works with however far the bricks are sitting out, it works with all of them. So there's not a whole lot of, it's the same for every brick.
Correct,
there's one product, and it simply gets screwed in or out depending on the cavity size required in that position as the bricklayers work through the brickwork. After many trials of making bricks all around the country at our various plants, we ended up selecting Bowral to make the bricks. Bowral was selected because we realised in the process we needed solid bricks. So the dry press process is one of our solid bricks in the business. Having a dry press brick enabled us to make the intricate shapes that we needed in the moulds to be able to produce the 5 different shapes that were required on this project.
When we found out we were awarded the project, we were extremely excited. It was always going to be a challenge, but Bowral has prided himself on being able to do the extraordinary when it comes to serving the needs of our architectural clients.
The initial reaction on this project, on seeing the drawings, was something that we had to be involved in. I wanted to desperately be involved in, and our team. But the building was short of spectacular.
K and the L-shaped bricks have never been made before. The K brick is a lot wider than the standard brick, so we had to modify one of our older pieces of brickmaking equipment to fit that in. The L brick was something, again, that hadn't been made before, and it was a very delicate shape, and it took about 3 or 4 goes to actually get that right.
We actually tried very hard to make it as similar and familiar for the bricklayers to do what the bricklayers do best, and that is to lay bricks. So we tried to make the brick restraint system in the mortar as easy as possible in order for the bricklayers to do what they do, and made very, very complicated geometrical patterns and lines within this project.
Barrel has always had the ability to make special shapes to suit a lot of architects' needs. It was definitely a difficult job, and we believe we've done an exceptionally good job producing the product.
We actually had to build our own little mock-up and get our bricklayer to lay bricks, and that enabled us to see how the bricks worked, the productivity rate, because obviously heavily cobbled brickwork doesn't always sit right.
Now that the project is nearing completion, I can see the vision that Frank Gehry had in terms of his design and the outcome of the building. It's art, you know, that's been constructed up there. You can tell that the time that everyone has spent on this project, all the team members, has all paid off.
The building changes appearance in different lighting conditions, and when the building is fully exposed to direct sunlight, the brickwork looks absolutely marvellous, and it's an absolute delight.
Every time I go past it, and I always drive down and do a detour down Mary Ann Street when I'm driving through the city just to see how it's going. It's an amazing building, and it's going to be an inspiration for architects for years to come.
I'm very proud of this building. But to build something like this, you needed to, it is a lot of challenge.
To have something of such high calibre and profile to be done in brickwork, it deserves recognition and congratulatory.
I think the building's absolutely outstanding. I've had a visit to the building prior to its completion, and the street was full of people that were in awe of the design and the uniqueness of it. It's obviously something that we're going to be very proud of for many, many years. We've managed to do what a lot of people thought was the impossible.
So, pretty amazing what you can do with bricks. Hey. Did I do it again? Sorry. Shit. Pretty amazing what you can. Thanks. Pretty amazing what you can do with bricks, or even just thinking outside the square. Bricks themselves are great for building. They've got all sorts of different characteristics. Fire resistance, as I said, they go up to 1200 degrees C in the kiln. It's not fire protected, but there's some sort of things there. The thermal efficiencies of brick, because air gets trapped there and all that sort of stuff, better for insulation, lower heating and cooling rates and all that sort of stuff. So, there are plenty of case studies on Brickworks, on various projects that we've done. If you have a look at our Brickworks website, there's plenty of inspiration and that there. We do tours for groups at our site. We've recently had the Building Designers Association of Australia through, hence why I think I'm here. So if you've got a group to come through and actually see the full process of a brick being made, I wouldn't recommend the mill because it gets a bit dusty and dirty up there. But yeah, by all means, contact our customer service, and we've got a design studio in town, or contact us up at Golden Grove and we'll get a tour through. So hopefully I've given you some inspiration, some things like that. So thanks, guys.
Anybody have any questions of Anne-Marie?
I'm just wondering about the business of they used a dry press process.
Yep.
Whereas like most of the bricks guys come to a cover.
Yeah. So coarse as you can imagine, but we can do all sorts of different shapes, as you saw, by being able to press them. They still have to go through a dryer and be fired and all that sort of stuff, but up at Golden Grove we are in an extrusion plant where the clay gets mixed with all of the additives and all that, and then goes through a vacuum chamber and extruded out into whatever shape or size we do. We actually do export to New Zealand, so we do various size bricks, our standard brick. We also do a large format. We also do flavors and export them to China as well. So,
I was just wondering about strength and quality like that. I mean, with the dry press, would that be actually?
it's a solid brick, so it takes a lot more to actually break and shatter. Obviously, if you've got the cores in an extruded brick, they're designed as well to help with brickies that want to chop the brick in half without having to grab the saw and things like that. So again, it's what the design is for, what you need. It's purpose built for things like that. So.
Do we have any other questions?
Thank you for the question.
That's okay.
Okay, Cameron, is this working? Anyone hear me? Oh, actually.
Mark Amos is already on his way to the presentation.
Yeah, so thank you for everyone turning up today. My name is Mark Amos. I'm the Specification Manager for BlueScope Steel for South Australia and Northern Territories. Predominantly my role is to talk to architects, designers, engineers, builders, basically the whole procurement process in offering solutions in steel. A little bit about BlueScope Steel. So BlueScope Steel started life as, and still gets recognised in these terms as being part of the BHP. So BHP Billiton around 2000 sold off their steel interests. So they still sold One Steel as a growing concern, and BlueScope as two separate businesses. One Steel make the formed products, so your universal beams, universal columns. BlueScope make the flat product, so plated steel, and then take that plated steel, get it down even thinner into what you predominantly see in the design space, being sort of light gauge painted steel. So Neil asked me to come here and talk to you about the actual production of steel and how steel is manufactured. He's a far better person than me, and you've got to bear with the dated technology. I think the video is probably from about the 1980s, but in terms of making steel, not much has changed since sort of certainly since the 80s. So I'll I'm on a series of videos talking you through the process of how you get from, dare I say, raw material to actually get to the material on site. Obviously what BlueScope do, BlueScope produce a coiled product. That coiled product then goes into the manufacturer, a secondary manufacturer, to give you your roll form product, to give you your corrugated, to give you your roof profiles, your wall profiles. So BlueScope themselves and Colorbond don't actually make those products. Those products are made by the channel, so your Fielders, Revolution Roofing, Stramit, Stratco. So it's a bit of a diluted chain, so obviously everyone thinks, oh, that's BlueScope product. It technically is BlueScope product, but also somebody else has actually gone through the manufacturing process to make it into a product that can be used in an application.
Kembla Steelworks in New South Wales is the home of BlueScope Steel's steel-making facilities. Here, the raw materials necessary to make steel are combined in two large blast furnaces. Iron ore, coal and limestone are the basic ingredients to make liquid iron, one of steel's essential elements. Millions of tonnes of iron are shipped to Port Kembla each year. The second iron-making ingredient, black coal, comes from coal mines close to the steelworks. Coal is washed to remove soil and rock, and then baked in coke ovens for around 18 hours to remove moisture and other materials. Coke is about 80% carbon and essential as both fuel and reducing agent for iron making. Limestone is used as a flux and when melted, it combines with the impurities in the furnace to form slag. Slag is a byproduct of steelmaking and a valuable component in the production of cement. These three basic materials, iron ore, coke and limestone, are fed directly into the top of the blast furnaces by conveyor. Blast furnaces are fed raw material continuously around the clock. Hot air and gas are blasted into the furnace through jets at the bottom called tuyères that generate temperatures of about 2,000 degrees. All the material in the blast furnace melts down in a chemical reaction involving carbon from coke and the metallic component of the iron ore, producing liquid iron in a process known as smelting. Molten iron and slag collects at the bottom of the furnace, where tap holes are opened at regular intervals, allowing the liquid iron to run along channels into refractory lined vessels on rail cars called torpedo ladles. These ladles haul the molten iron to the basic oxygen steel-making furnaces known as the BOS. There are 3 BOS furnaces at Port Kembla that convert the iron into steel, and this happens more than 50 times a day. The steel-making process reduces the carbon content to below 1% to increase the material's durability and strength. Steel is the world's most recycled material, and the recovery of scrap steel forms an important part of the steel-making process. About 40 tonnes of recovered scrap steel is charged into the steel-making furnace before adding a much larger amount of molten iron. Molten iron is poured into the furnace using a huge overhead crane. A water-cooled lance is lowered into the furnace and blows pure oxygen onto the mixture at nearly twice the speed of sound. This creates a reaction that drives the temperature rapidly to around 1700 degrees Celsius. Fluxes are added to absorb impurities, and as the scrap melts and mixes with the iron and the carbon content is reduced, liquid steel is formed. Testing is carried out to check the composition at that time, and if the test shows that everything is correct, the furnace is tilted to the tapping position. The molten steel runs out from under a layer of slag into a ladle. At this stage, alloys like ferromanganese and aluminium are added to create the required grades of steel. More than 100 types or grades of steel are produced, each with different properties as required for their end use. The next stage of the process transforms the liquid steel into a solid shape. This is achieved by casting the steel into slabs in the continuous slab casting machines. Molten steel is poured into a bottomless mould where it passes between dozens of water-cooled rollers. As it moves through the caster, the outer layer slowly hardens until the slab of steel is solid all the way through. The slabs are automatically measured and cut by computer-controlled gas torches before being stockpiled ahead of rolling on either the plate mill or the hot strip mills. At the plate mill, reheated slab passes through horizontal and vertical rollers until reaching the desired length, width and thickness. Plate sizes and grades can be finished down to high levels of thickness control along the entire length of plate. Slabs bound to the hot strip mill are also reheated before they can be rolled into a hot rolled strip. Slabs pass through a walking beam reheat furnace where they are carried rather than pushed along. This reduces the risk of surface damage and maintains an even temperature. Slabs are reheated in a coke oven gas furnace, which creates a uniform jacket of scale or surface iron oxide. This is removed by passing them through high pressure water sprays. Next is the reverse roughing mill, through which the product passes numerous times until it is reduced from the 230mm thick slab to a bar of about 25mm and lengthened considerably. The width is controlled by vertical edge rollers, and the bar then travels to a coil box where it is rolled up to form a coil. This ensures that the bar temperature is evenly distributed throughout its entire length. The coiling action reverses the bar so that the back end is now the front, and this leads off to the finishing stands or rolls. To ensure final mechanical properties are achieved, all hot rolling steel is finished at specific temperatures to achieve the final properties required for the hot rolled coil product required. The thickness of the product is monitored by X-ray gauges as the strip leaves the last stand, and this equipment adjusts the mill settings during rolling if necessary. After the strip leaves the last finishing stand, temperature is carefully controlled using water sprays en route to the down coilers. Tight tolerances remain on temperature control as it impacts the mechanical properties of the steel. The final hot rolled coil can be transported directly to a customer or further processed through pickling, temper rolling, slitting, shearing, or feed for cold rolling.
So basically what we've done there is you've got your slab steel, which you use for slabs, and then also what we're going to look at now is how that then converts into some of the light gauge steel. So the process now taking 25mm thick coil of steel and getting that down to less than a millimetre.
Hot strip steel from the hot strip mills at Western Port and Port Kembla is the feed for producing cold rolled steel. Cold rolled steel has a higher standard of surface finish, tighter thickness tolerance, improved mechanical properties and flatness that is required for many applications. All hot rolled strip used for cold rolling is pickled to remove the scale layer that would cause problems during the cold rolling. The strip travels through a set of rollers at high speed and high tension. As the strip is not heated, this is called cold rolling. Cold rolling progressively reduces the thickness of pickled hot rolled strip through the multi-stand cold rolling mill. The force used during cold rolling squashes the grains of steel, leaving them extremely elongated and the strip hard and brittle. For most applications, the grain must be regrown to make steel softer for forming. This grain regrowth is achieved through controlled heating and cooling, called annealing. It is carried out in a protected atmosphere to protect the surface from oxidation. This restores ductility by recrystallization of the deformed cold roll structure. Skin passing or temper rolling is the final strip cold rolling and conditioning process. Skin passing and temper rolling are carried out on a temper mill. The main aim of the skin passing process is to produce a smooth transition from elastic to plastic behaviour. This enables the steel to deform evenly, producing a smooth surfaced article without fluting or stretch restraining. Temper rolling is used to increase the strength of annealed steel for applications requiring strength and springiness with limited formability. These products are classified as hardness grades. BlueScope Steel has two 5-stand cold rolling mills. One of the 5-stand mills is at Western Port, while the other mill is at Port Kembla. Cold rolled strip may be sold in this condition or undergo further value-added processing steps to produce the metallic coated or pre-painted range of products.
So what we've got there, so we've gone from a 230mm slab of hot molten steel down to a 20mm coil of hot coil. Put that into the cold roll process and you now got thicknesses down around the sort of 1mm and then even lower to the sort of 0.4, 0.48, 0.42s that you use on your residential or commercial roofing projects. So we're halfway there, bear with me. So basically we had a metal coating to the so obviously the steel in its natural state would rust straight away, so obviously there needs a metallic coating put on that to give it some way of keeping it from rusting, and so you've got a durable product. So this is the metallic coating bit.
Steel from the hot rolled steel is used as the feed for the metallic coated products. Metallic coating is applied to thin strip steel to provide an effective means of protection against corrosion and extend the working life of steel. two common coating types are zinc or aluminium zinc alloy. BlueScope Steel has 6 continuous hot dip metallic coating lines, 3 at Port Kembla in New South Wales and 3 at Western Port in Victoria. The strip enters a non-stop process, and each metal coating line has a natural gas-fired furnace that removes any oil left from the cold rolling operation. The furnaces also anneal the strip to a temperature at which it softens. Coil back ends are welded to front ends of following coils at the entry section, which is stopped for this process. The remainder of the line is kept running by using up strips stored in the accumulator. Each of the coating lines has 2 uncoiler units in the entry section, so that the prepared lead end of a coil is always ready for welding to the preceding tail end of the coil. The spangled coatings are zinc coatings, while the smoother surface finishes are zinc aluminium coatings. The clean strip passes from the furnace through a protective atmosphere into a molten metal bath. This molten metal chemically bonds to the steel surface to produce the final coated strip steel. The strip emerges from the cooling zone of the furnace directly into a molten bath of the appropriate coating, and exiting the bath, high pressure air jets remove excess molten metal, adjusting the final amount of coating. After further cooling in water, the strip passes through finishing equipment for shape correction or surface treatment. In some cases, this is a skin pass mill and tension leveler, a roller leveler, or a single tension leveler. The strip now receives an application of passivation solution to provide a degree of resistance to wet storage stain and early dulling. In the case of zinc aluminium coated strip, a further process may be used to apply a 1 micron thick film of organic resin in addition to the normal passivation. The organic resin film, however, will not be applied to strip intended for coil coating or powder coating. Finished product is wrapped and carefully stored to protect it. BlueScope Steel markets a third type of zinc-coated product under the trade name Zincaneal Steel. It's produced by passing zinc-coated steel through a furnace before the coating can solidify, which causes it to alloy with the base steel, resulting in a smooth, matte grey zinc iron alloy coating ideally suited to painting.
So this just shows how technology's moved. So technology in making the, if you like, the slab steel hasn't changed, but we now increase, and probably about 10 years ago, we've increased, put some magnesium into that sort of metallic coating to give it higher resistance, higher corrosive values, and actually being able to reduce the thickness down so that there's less coating, but that coating gives greater warranties. So that probably has changed since this video was done. Last one, we're onto the coating. So we're onto, dare I say, the colour bond, the surf mists, the things that you see day to day that you're used to using.
Metallic coated strip is the feed for the paint coating lines of BlueScope Steel. The metallic coating and pre-painted coating provide long life performance in many environments. BlueScope Steel's polymer experts work with global paint companies to deliver high performance solutions, as well as a range of attractive colours for residential and commercial applications. Today's pre-painted steel is much more than just a paint coating on steel. It comprises a number of critically performing layers with a steel base that gives it its strength. A conversion coating is a thin chemical film applied to the metallic coating at the pre-treatment stage of strip painting to improve corrosion resistance and to ensure good paint adhesion. Then the primer and finish coat are applied. The primer provides adhesion for the top coat and improves corrosion resistance. The top coat is the decorative finish, but is also resistant to the environment in which the product is expected to perform. reverse side is a combined corrosive inhibiting primer and backing coat. Each coil is stitched to the end of the preceding coil in the mill, and variable speed storage facilities, known as accumulators, ensure the strip can run at constant speed throughout the pre-treatment and painting processes. Following pre-treatment, the strip progresses to the first coater room, where a primer is applied, and then has wet paint film placed on both surfaces. The strip enters the primer curing oven and is heated to a peak metal temperature of 230 degrees centigrade, depending on the paint type. The oven design is such that the strip temperature is accurately and consistently controlled to ensure the required paint properties are achieved. The next stage is the main coater room, where the decorative top coat and the reverse wash coat are applied in the same way the primer was applied. A second oven is used to cure the finished coats, and once again, temperature is strictly controlled to ensure optimum paint properties. Once the top coat paint film has been applied and cured, a polyethylene film can also be bonded to the top surface. This provides damage resistance to the top coat during further processing and installation. Once on the job site, this protected film should be removed. Coils are then recoiled, cut to size, packed in stretch wrap polyethylene and dispatched. Pre-painted steel is tested in the field at exposure sites around Australia and undergoes rigorous physical testing, accelerated corrosion testing, and colour and gloss resistance to accelerated UV exposure. New pre-painted steel products are tested for at least 3 years before being released to market. Today's pre-painted steels include a new ColourBond Thermatex steel for roofing. It works by reflecting more of the sun's heat to leave the roof space and therefore the building cooler. Other innovations include ColourBond Permaguard insulated panel steel, specifically designed to be used as sandwich panels for cool rooms that provide excellent formability, durability and antibacterial properties.
So probably a little bit long-winded and probably hard work to get through, but thank you. I just thought it was important that I showed you that, dare I say, it'd be easy for me to stand up here and say the same steel that you use in bridges and you use in foot plates and you drive over as you're driving down the expressway. It's the sort of thing that was used for Darlington Bridge is the same steel that's used to make ColourBond roof sheeting, but I think it's important that you see how all that process goes into taking that same steel. So let's have a quick look at, as I said earlier, in terms of having the manufacturers. So what type of finishes are there available in the ColourBond range? So if we So in terms of the ColourBond range, you've all got a sheet on there. You predominantly a standard finish, 22 colours in the standard range. We add to that range from time to time, and generally we look at the application of other areas. So added onto the area of the standard ColourBond would be the Ultra. Now that would be something where you get into a corrosive situation, so near the coast, near an industrial application, and you basically it's got a thicker metallic coating, which gives it a longer warranty period. And so obviously, no real rule of thumb these days. It seems to change as the warranties and our position on warranties gets better, and we learn more about this product in use. It seems to be a line that's getting closer, but certainly less than a kilometre to the coast should be at least looking at sort of non-standard product for walling and roofing applications. And obviously we have a warranty calculator on the website that's able for you to go on to and give you an idea of what warranty you're likely to possess, likely to get from that. We also recently bought out a series of matte finishes, which are on there somewhere. So yeah, so there's the contemporary and the classic range. And we recently brought out 6 matte range finishes. Basically what that is, it's a reduced gloss level. So instead of, dare I say, getting what we architects and designers refer to as shiny colour bond, it actually looks a bit dull. So it does give it a different palette. It gives it a completely different look in the place. It probably, again, changes, gives you a different colour. So done those in 6 colours, some lights and some darks, and it's being used predominantly a lot in the architectural features. So interlocking panel, nail strip, something that looks a bit different to your standard sort of corrugated or span form type of product. We also, as in the BlueScope range, have so obviously one other colour. So we talked about Thermatech in the video, which is an ingredient added to basically reflect more colour. We have developed a sort of ultra white. The product's called Coolmax. It's got a much highly reflective. It's the brightest colour we do. A lot of technology gone into keeping that colour with the Australian sun. And that has got added thermal performances, certainly on large roofs. We've even gone to the industry and got them to re-look at how they design from an energy efficiency perspective, looking at the roof. Larger roofs of darker colours create their own microclimate. It's called a second order effect, and that basically means that the technology that's being used to measure that or create an energy model for that is actually slightly flawed, and they should be looking to use CFD technology, computational fluid dynamics, which is where they basically take a thermal photograph of the roof and see what the temperature is really doing. So certainly something to look at from obviously that's on large scale, 5,000 square metre shopping centre type roofs that you get this microclimate second order effect. Less so the smaller. Obviously there'll be benefits in having a more reflective roof sheeting, but you don't get that second order effect on your sort of standard residential applications. Some other products that the product gets used in. So obviously we have so they talked about adding a resin. So you'll see it as you drive around. In fact, you can actually look right, and that's you've got light gauge steel framing in what's called our TrueCore product. You'll see a lot of that residentially. So residentially, the big advantage against timber is it's non-combustible is the first one. Second one obviously is resistance to termite, so it's impervious to termite resistance. Other than that, performs very similar to timber in its applications. And again, we're seeing more of it used as well in commercial applications against concrete and structural steel. Concrete, it's a lot quicker to build with, and structural steel, as you can imagine, it's just reducing the sheer mass of steel that's in that building, which again has efficiencies and makes it a more sustainable product moving forward. One other application that might not necessarily think of steel is deck form product. This is where you use a structural, so your high-rise buildings, instead of having a concrete form system where you use timber and let the concrete go off on the timber and then move the timber up each floor, you can use a either sacrificial layer as steel, just use it as formwork, it just makes it a lot quicker, or you can actually incorporate the strength of the steel in with the concrete to make a composite floor system. So again, there's big innovations in that space as well. Neil, is Richard?
Apparently not.
Okay. I've got a little bit longer. So, okay, Richard was going to talk about, like I said, we produce the coiled product, and we then supply that to the manufacturers that you'll all have heard of: Revolution Roofing, Lysart, Fielders, Stratco, Stramit, in all of their ranges. Probably the best place I can sort of point you, rather than sort of go into detail on their product, is the steelselect.com. So if we just quickly. So basically, Steel Select is a No. So Steel Select is a sort of BlueScope sponsored website. Basically, it takes all of the products that utilise our coil product and looks at putting it all in one place. So it's a great resource revenue for you, resource avenue. Basically, if you go through, so it talks about products in terms of roofing, walling, use of purling and framing, formwork, rainwater goods, fencing and cold storage products. It then gives a series of resources in terms of CAD, literature, textures, colours, articles. So again, talking about the various types of materials that you might have, from standard ColourBond, matte finishes, metallics. So again, we have a range of 6 metallics that have got a very high lustre, and so you've got something far more visible, far more similar to your sort of anodized aluminium. Coolmax we talked about being highly reflective, ultra in corrosion applications, and then there's a variety of other types of finishes that can have. In terms of tools for designers, there's a spec writer, a weight calculator in there. It goes to all the suppliers that we talked about, their individual websites. So again, you can look at to see who's got similar products, which one of those you wish to use, and then I think that's a sort of project showcase, showing you all different types of applications. Many different types of applications out there, from standard. My role predominantly again with designers and architects is to do the weird and the wonderful. So if the architect or designer is looking to create something that doesn't necessarily fit with standards, I'm probably the best person to speak to in terms of getting that to the various channels and saying, okay, what standard product do you have? What do you have in your R&D arsenal to assist? And predominantly that's it really. There's a whole host of Steel Select's an excellent, sort of, as I said, avenue to use for steel walling and roofing products. And again, each, unfortunately, despite there being a lot of generic profiles, each of the manufacturers will have their own testing and their own data and technical information with reference to their product. So it's a bit difficult for me to sort of talk openly about theirs. Obviously, from our perspective, they all use BlueScope and ColourBond products, so they're all valued customers. And that's about it. Any questions?
Corten steel.
Corten steel. Right, we don't like the word Corten. Corten's a generic term. It's trademarked by American Steels. So Corten, ours is called Redcore, reduced corrosion. Actually, it's probably, I'll go back to, nope, it's not in there. If I go back, oh, there we go. So I did put it up. Yeah, so again, we're able to produce weathering steel, which is the generic name for it. It's a bit like calling sort of plasterboard gyprock. It's the same sort of scenario. Yeah, we're able to produce it in various thicknesses we're now talking to the engineers and the roads authorities about actually doing weathering steel bridges. So that the theory being that you put the bridge up, you leave it 100 years and basically it weathers itself and corrodes. So you don't need to keep going back to the maintenance regime. Also able to get it in lighter gauge, so that's a sort of a cladding 1.2 mil type arrangement, where again you're able to shop work that into set panels, and we're also able to do it as a roll forming. Some of the roll formers have the ability to do corrugated steel in a weathering steel application.
Is all steel from the slab to the crest, does it all have the same recycled steel content, or is there higher?
So to create that, so as you saw that blast furnace and you saw the magnet transferring, so it's about 25%. So 25% of all new steel requires existing steel. That's using the traditional blast furnace methodology. If you use an electronic arc system, which is basically the state of the art, that's what every new steel manufacturing mill would aim to have. They're 100% recycled steel content. But in theory, yes, there's the same degree of recycled steel in a piece of roof sheeting as there is in a bridge.
Why is the method of recycling limited? I mean, is the quality of the steel once it's actually been used once reduced?
No, it's more chemistry, so I'm probably not the best person to give the answer on this, but it's to do with the chemical disposition of the steels that they make. Various temperatures, various minute differences in that recycling content, in the coke, in the and how much slag they take off. So it's not a case that they can just put 75% in. It's just that they can't. I don't believe they can create the temperatures to burn down the existing molten. Or at 25%, there's enough of the molten liquid steel to melt the existing steel. Whereas the more you put of that, the more also finished steel. The properties of that steel, the physical characteristics of that steel are different to the liquid steel. So obviously you need to measure them and get them. I think each year there's a general industry consensus to try and maximise that recycled content to basically be as sustainable as possibly can. Any other questions?
Before you were talking about the certain types need to be specified, like on the coast within a kilometre.
Yeah.
It was the Ultra.
Ultra.
More of a colourborn question. Does the matte come in that sort of steel, or is it just?
Matte as an Ultra, not at this stage. We can do. It's strange. The answer to your question, the answer is yes, but not. It's not called Ultra.
Oh, okay.
It's basically it'd be a custom colour, and it would basically mean making matte AZ AM150. So it'd be making it specific with exactly the same as Ultra, but we're not calling it Ultra. A strange corporate decision as to why that is, but I'm not quite sure. But so we can do it. We can do matte next to the coast.
Yep.
But again, there will probably be minimum order quantities. So it's looked at as, rather than looked at as a mass product, which the standard 6 colours with the Ultra range is. Mm-hmm. So you can just go to a roll former and say, I want that in matte. Oh, sorry, I want that in Ultra. Obviously, with the matte, it needs to be specifically requested.
Sure.
So again, it will be minimum order.
How much is the minimum order?
Depends on what the thickness of the coil is. Depends on the width of the. It's almost project specific.
Like that opposed to a residential development.
That opposed to residential development, so that would have. Well, so that product probably comes in about 27 tonne. So you probably don't use 27 tonne on that project. The reality is that there's a lot of that in terms of when it comes to bespoke and one-off schemes where we have to. Our minimum order quantity doesn't usually meet the project requirement. So it's a case of either the roll former takes that on board and charges accordingly. So you get charged a lot more for the product per square metre because they're taking twice as much as they need to supply your product. So unfortunately there isn't a golden figure that I can give you. It really does depend on what profile, what colour, what thickness, what type of finish they want. It really does depend on a lot of things. So sorry for being a bit vague, but it is a bit of a minefield. All good? Any more?
Just one.
Yeah.
You talked about sandwich paneling for pool rooms.
Yeah.
I want to know, where is my sandwich panel colour-bond roofing?
The same companies do.
Can you get that?
Yeah, you sandwich.
Sandwich panel.
Well, as a sandwich panel, so the sandwich panel that he talked about in the video there was predominantly for internal lining, so a box within a box. Externally, all of the insulated panel companies have walling and roofing products utilising the same technology, just with a different coil. So they don't actually use Permaguard, because Permaguard is predominantly specifically for that box inside a box. So, but insulated panel companies, they've all got a roofing solution and a walling solution, and some of them have even got some fairly sort of architectural, outstanding finishes as well.
So if you're talking roofing, you're longer lasting between, say, your everyday brick terracotta tiles as opposed to steel.
Yep.
What would your length be as a rule for everlasting?
So we give warranties in the residential space up to 36 years, depending on the application. There's been products, so the company itself has just celebrated a couple of years ago 50 years of ColourBond. So there's examples of a ColourBond sheet being in existence and still performing perfectly well at 50 years. But obviously we limit our warranty to that, and the warranty again will be less dependent upon prevailing factors. But in terms of a longevity of product, yeah, like I said, there's sheets still out there that have got our name on that were made when we first went into existence.
Just having a look at your brochure here with the Ultra Steel, it also refers to stainless steel for severe coastal environments.
Yeah. So basically stainless steel is exactly that. It's stainless steel, then coated with ColourBond. The reason I didn't talk about it, it's extortionately expensive. You're the water, I'm the building. That would be severe. That would be at the point you need to look at stainless steel, and i.e. you wouldn't get a warranty on an Ultra. 100 metres from the sea, you'll probably get some degree of warranty on an Ultra. So yeah, so I didn't deliberately not talk about it. There's no reason not to talk about it. Just it's in that realm of you'd be personally, if it's my house, I'd build it in something and knock it down twice rather than pay the cost of the initial first product. Well, it wouldn't even be twice. You could probably do it 3 or 4 times.
I'm a little bit confused. Is BlueScope and ColourBond 2 different manufacturers?
So BlueScope is the steel manufacturer,
yep.
And ColourBond is a brand of product. So
okay.
of coated steel.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Yep.
Sorry to jump
Oh, that's fine.
Talking about we call it Redcore.
Yep.
Is that right? Any idea of sort of ballpark figure of cost per square metre or something like that? Maybe as opposed to ColourBond?
As opposed to standard ColourBond, probably it's no, is a simple answer. It's very dependent on, they almost come in different, almost like you're not comparing apples with apples. So a lot of the architectural finishes would be more expensive in ColourBond anyway than standard ColourBond. So you could be looking twice the price, 3 times the price. Depends on the application. And again, then you've got to look at just the price as well as part of the installation. The devil's in the detail when it comes to weathering steel. It does leach, it will patina, it will have runoff. You've really got to be careful how you detail all those junctions where water can either sit and lie, because again you don't want it in sitting water because it fundamentally is a corroding steel. The idea is that it's thicker than it needs to be, and that corrosion, that patina, creates a sort of an ongoing wet-dry solution to keep it resistant from getting to the actual, dare I say, the metal that matters. So, yeah, you probably need to talk to the channel again, and we're in a bit of trouble. ACCC, sort of our legal department, doesn't like us talking about our customers' pricing, which fundamentally is what that would be. But you're probably looking at 2 to 3 times the cost. All good. Do you want to finish up now?
So, got any more questions for Mark? Oh, thank you very much. Can we please thank Mark Amos for the presenter that was going to be on next couldn't get here, so you got me. No, of course not. So, if anybody here has got any questions about the Building Designers Association, anything like that, for those of you who haven't had anything to eat, there's some Subway over there that if you've told Joe that you had some dietary requirements, your name is on those Subways there. But feel free to have another go. Has anybody got any questions on building design, Building Designers Association? Yes?
I did have just one question with the app.
Yes?
Like see, I mean, like you sign up and then you've got to like log in or register and then you can't, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
you have to have a BDA, a membership number to log in.
Yeah.
Have you applied to the BDA for membership?
Yeah, then I didn't receive that information to put in there.
Your membership number?
You need like a password or something. I have a number.
Right. Well, if you fill out the, there's a, as part of this presentation, if you wish to have a certificate of attendance, there's a form on the table up there where the subway is. You fill out your name, your email address, and then we will send you a certificate. But if you want to speak to me, I will give you the password and you can set up your app. So if anybody has any other app issues, talk to me and we'll get that resolved for you.
Just with regard to the restructure of BDAA
Yes.
and the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So there's now a South Australian chapter, and then within that there are other.
No, there's 3 chapters in South Australia. My role is just to coordinate the 3 chapters and get the information out to South Australia. So we have a chapter called Goyder. So if you draw a line on your map on Grand Junction Road, right across South Australia, anything above that is Goyder. If you draw another line on your map at Sturt Road, everything above that is the chapter of Torrens, and everything below Sturt Road is the chapter of Coorong. The reason why they're so big and so vast is we've taken the BDA full membership and equally proportioned those in those chapters. As membership numbers increase, then those chapters can potentially be split into smaller chapters so that we have smaller groups. So that's where we're heading.
Are events done on those sort of chapter? Do they hold events?
I'm managing the events at this point in time. We're trying to get events, so probably next year we'll have events within those chapters a bit further. Down in Coorong, a bit further north in Goyder. So we just need to gradually step through this process with our members and get them involved in attending those events. So we are working on, there's a national conference on this coming Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and I'll be pursuing the corporate identities that turn up there as to what they can assist with us for next year. So that we'll try and get a program of events out before the end of the year, and then that'll help people who live at distance to make an effort to attend those functions. Or if you've got any problems, you can give me a ring. Can't remember the number. I can tell you what it is though. Yes.
Last time you spoke, you mentioned something about the mentor program.
Yes, BDAA has a mentor program. There are some prerequisites for that. You need to be involved with the association, that is attend meetings, participate in discussions or whatever we're doing. And then in February of next year there'll be an opportunity to apply to be on the mentor program, and then that mentor program will kick off in March and go through until September. So we're about a month out of the end of 2019 mentor program, and I've been mentoring 2 students who are members of the BDAA, and it's been quite rewarding for me to learn about what they're doing and the things that they're involved with. So it's been entertaining for me, encouraging for me to see that you guys as students are doing some really good work. So you should pat yourself on the back for being here.
What sort of things do you do for them as mentoring? What sort of things do you do for them? Or like what's
Well, the couple that I'm mentoring, they're doing some additions to some of their friends' homes and things like that as little projects, and they say, well, what do I do here?
Yeah.
So we communicate either by email, by telephone, and or face to face, depending on where they are. And so we go through those issues so that they can make some changes to their plans, or just seeking affirmation of what they're doing. So that's the process we go through. And then the mentor program allows us to log the amount of time that we're spending with the mentor, so that it can then be assessed by the BDA&T, which is the training and accreditation arm of the Building Designers Association of Australia.
Yeah.
So make sure that we're doing the right thing with the students, and the students are getting value for their time and effort as well. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
Can every student be a member, including an international student?
Sorry? Sorry?
I said, can every student be a member, including an international student?
Yes. All you need to do is go onto the website bdaa.com.au, go across to membership, go down to student member, and you register your membership. You fill out a form online, that gets sent to BDAA, then they action that, give you a membership number, and student membership is free. And it's still free for 12 months after you finish your course. So yes, you can.
Okay.
Oh, I don't see you logging on now. I'm only joking. So yeah, any other questions? Just a bit of a promo thing on. I think it's the 21st of October that we have the last presentation by the BDA for this year. We have a young lady who is a residential energy assessor. She'll be talking on energy assessing residences, the process that she goes through, and we're trying to line up someone to talk on the Section J of the building code for commercial buildings, and then someone for the deemed to satisfy, for those that want to run the gauntlet and do all their self-assessing and go through that for the National Framing Code. So that's where we're heading next time. And that's about it. So any other questions? You're a quiet one. But thank you again for coming. It's been much appreciated. I hope we've given you some information that you didn't know you had before, or you've got. And certainly it's a good understanding of where steel comes from, so that you have an idea as to what it can do in buildings, and the same with bricks. You've got different types of bricks and so forth. So if there's anything that you feel that you need, there's some feedback forms here. Please fill them out, make some comments on today's event. Then we'll collect those, go through those, and if we can make some changes or make the information more pertinent to what you're looking for, then let us know, and we'll endeavour to do our best to assist you. If you want to talk to me, I'll be over there in the corner hiding. So thank you again for coming.